The night sky above the human colony was calm, filled with distant stars that looked like silver dust. Ethan, a young engineer, walked home after a long day of repairing mining machines. The ground shook suddenly, a low thunder rolled across the hills. He looked up and saw a streak of fire tearing across the sky. It was not a falling star. It was too large, too bright, too close. The object crashed beyond the ridge, shaking the earth and sending a shockwave through the colony. Alarms began to sound, people shouted in fear, but Ethan felt something different. Something inside him told him this was no ordinary crash. Ethan grabbed his toolkit and ran toward the ridge. Others stayed behind, afraid, whispering about meteors and explosions. But Ethan was not afraid, he was curious, and perhaps too brave for his own good. He climbed the rocks, his boots slipping on loose gravel. When he reached the top, he saw smoke rising from a small valley. In the middle of the black smoke was a broken ship, silver and alien, its surface glowing with strange symbols. Ethan froze, his heart racing. He had never seen anything like this. From the wreckage came a soft cry, a sound not human but filled with pain. Ethan rushed down and pulled away burning pieces of metal. Inside the broken ship he found her, an alien woman, tall and graceful, her skin pale like moonlight. She held something close to her chest, an object glowing softly. It was an amulet, made of crystal and light, pulsing like a heartbeat. Her eyes opened wide and filled with fear, but also trust. When they met his, her lips moved, her voice broken and weak. "Please, help, daughter," she whispered. Ethan leaned closer, shocked that she could speak even a little English. "Daughter? Where is she?" he asked, his voice trembling. The alien mother pointed with shaking fingers toward the back of the ship. Ethan followed the direction, stepping over twisted wires and shattered glass. There in the shadows he found a small figure, a child, no older than 10 in human years. Hiding behind a metal beam, her large eyes glowed faintly, her face marked with the same pale skin as her mother. The child clutched the side of the ship. Afraid to move, Ethan crouched down, holding out his hand gently. "It's all right," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." The child looked at him, then at her mother, then slowly stepped out. The moment she touched the amulet in her mother's hand, the crystal blazed with light. Ethan's eyes widened. The amulet was reacting to the child. The alien mother gasped, her voice urgent despite her weakness. "They will come. They want the amulet. Protect her. Protect my daughter." Her words cut into Ethan like a blade. Before he could answer, a low sound echoed in the distance. A roar of engines, heavy and hungry. Ethan looked toward the night sky and saw dark shapes moving across the stars. Ships, fast and armed, descending toward the colony. The alien mother's eyes filled with tears. "They found us," she whispered, clutching her daughter's hand. Ethan understood now. This was no accident. She was being hunted. And whatever that amulet was, it was the reason. The child moved closer to Ethan, hiding behind his arm. Her tiny voice whispered in fear, "They will take me." Ethan shook his head firmly, though his heart pounded in terror. "Not while I'm here," he said. His voice steady, he looked at the amulet again, glowing brighter, almost as if alive. It was not just an ornament, it was something powerful, something sacred, and now he was part of it. Whether he wanted or not, the engines grew louder. The air trembled as the raiders' ships drew near. Ethan felt the weight of the moment, the fear of what was coming. He was only a human engineer, not a soldier, not a hero. Yet when he looked at the alien mother and her child, he knew he could not walk away. He could not leave them to be taken. The mother grabbed his arm, her strength fading but her eyes burning with desperate hope. "You human, protect her," she said, her voice breaking. Ethan nodded slowly, feeling a fire ignite inside him. The night that had begun so calm was now filled with danger and destiny. The colony had no idea what was falling upon them. The hunters were coming, the amulet was glowing, and the child's fate was tied to it all. And Ethan, the simple engineer, was now standing at the edge of a story greater than anything he had ever imagined. He tightened his grip on his toolkit. Holding the child close, the smoke rose higher. The engines roared closer, and his heart whispered a truth he could not ignore. This is only the beginning. The alien mother's breathing grew weaker as the sound of engines filled the sky. Her hand trembled as she pulled the child closer, the amulet glowing between them. Ethan could see fear in her eyes, but also fierce determination. She whispered again, her voice barely audible. She is the key. Protect her." Ethan wanted to ask more, but the engines outside roared louder. Shaking the broken ship, the child, Lyra, pressed her small fingers against the glowing amulet. The crystal pulsed brighter like it was alive. Like it was responding to her heartbeat, Ethan's eyes widened, realizing this strange object was tied to her in a way he could not understand. It was not just jewelry. It was something far greater. The mother coughed, her body weakening. The amulet holds our memory, our power, our future, she whispered. Ethan leaned closer, straining to catch every word. If they take it, they take her. They erase her. Her eyes filled with tears, and for a moment, Ethan saw the pain of a whole race hidden in those words. Lyra clutched Ethan's sleeve, her glowing eyes filled with both innocence and fear. She had no words, but the way she looked at him made his chest tighten. She was just a child, but she carried something so heavy it could break an entire world. Ethan knelt beside her, trying to keep his voice calm. "I'll keep you safe," he said, though he wasn't sure how. The ship rattled as a shadow passed overhead. Through the cracked window, Ethan saw them, dark raider ships circling above like vultures. The hunters had arrived. Just as the mother had warned, Ethan's pulse raced, his mind searching for a way out. The colony was unprepared. The people would not stand a chance if these raiders attacked. Suddenly, the amulet shone even brighter, casting strange light across the broken walls. Lyra gasped, her small hands trembling as she held it. Ethan felt the air grow warmer, charged with an invisible energy. The child's eyes glowed brighter, and the crystal seemed to echo her heartbeat. He realized then, the amulet was not only connected to her, it was part of her. Ethan turned to the mother, desperate for answers. "What is happening to her?" he asked. The mother's weak smile flickered. "She is chosen." Last of her line. "The amulet will awaken with her," she said. Her breath grew shallow, her strength fading fast. Ethan's chest grew heavy. This was more than he ever wanted, more than he ever thought possible. He was just an engineer, not a soldier, not a savior. But now he was standing between this child and the hunters who wanted to erase her. He swallowed hard, his jaw tightening. Lyra's small voice finally broke the silence. "They will come for me," she whispered. Her words soft but clear. Her English was broken, but her meaning was sharp. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder, steadying her trembling form. "They'll have to go through me first," he said firmly. Though fear burned inside him, the ship outside groaned as raiders landed nearby. Dust rose in the valley, echoing with metal boots and cruel laughter. Ethan could hear them approaching, voices sharp, weapons ready. The mother looked at him one last time. "Hide her. Live for her," she said, her final words filled with desperate command. Her head fell back, her chest still. Ethan froze, grief and shock flooding through him. The alien mother was gone, leaving only her child and the glowing amulet. Lyra clutched Ethan's hand, tears sliding down her pale face. He felt a fire rise inside him, stronger than fear. He would not let her be taken, not while he still breathed. The door of the broken ship burst open with a violent crash. Dark figures stepped inside, armored and armed, their eyes glowing with greed. One pointed directly at the child. "There she is," the raider growled. "Take the girl. Take the amulet." Ethan's heart thundered, but his hands tightened on his toolkit. He would fight, even if it killed him. The raiders advanced, but then something unexpected happened. The amulet flared, blinding the room with a flash of pure light. The raiders stumbled back, shielding their eyes, shouting in anger. Lyra's small body trembled as the crystal pulsed with her fear. The light formed a barrier, a shield that held back the intruders. Ethan stared in shock, realizing the child's emotions fueled the power. But the barrier flickered, the glow dimming. Lyra was too young, too weak to control it for long. Ethan knew if she collapsed, the shield would vanish, and the raiders would seize her. He stepped forward, standing between them and the child. His heart pounded, his fear screamed, but his voice was steady. "You'll have to kill me first," he said. The raiders sneered, raising their weapons. The shield trembled. Lyra gasped. The amulet flickered weakly. Ethan felt the moment stretch like a blade at his throat. He was one human against many, but something inside him refused to bend. And in that moment, the hunters realized this was no ordinary fight. This was the beginning of a battle they had not expected. The shield flickered like a candle in the wind. Lyra's small hands shook as she tried to hold the amulet close. Her face was pale, her breaths quick, her strength fading. Ethan could see the crystal's glow weaken with every second. He knew the barrier would not last. The raiders pressed forward, their armored boots heavy on the broken floor. One of them growled with impatience, slamming the barrel of his weapon against the shield. The glowing wall rippled, cracking like thin glass. "Child cannot hold it forever," the raider snarled, his voice cruel. "Take her now." Ethan's heart pounded in his chest. He had no gun, no armor, only the heavy wrench from his toolkit. But he raised it like a blade. Standing tall in front of Lyra, fear gnawed at him, but something stronger pushed it aside. He had promised her mother, and he would not break that promise. With a sharp cry, the shield shattered. The raiders stormed forward, their eyes glowing with hunger for the amulet. Ethan swung his wrench with all his strength. The first raider fell back, helmet cracked, sparks flying from his visor. The others laughed cruelly, circling him like wolves. Lyra cried out, clutching the amulet. The crystal glowed faintly, but it was too weak to protect them again. Ethan pulled her behind him, his arms aching. Sweat dripping down his face, the raiders raised their rifles, aiming directly at the child. Ethan moved before they could fire, throwing himself at them with desperate courage. The fight was chaos, metal clashed, boots slammed. Sparks lit the dark wreckage. Ethan was struck hard across the chest, pain exploding through him, but he refused to fall. His grip on the wrench like iron. He drove it into another raider's shoulder, sparks bursting as circuits tore. The raiders cursed in anger, realizing this human would not give up. One slammed Ethan into the wall, pinning him, his weapon raised. But before he could pull the trigger, Lyra screamed, the amulet blazed, a wave of light blasting outward. The raider flew back, his armor smoking. The others hesitated, fear flickering across their faces. This child was not helpless, and this human was not weak. Together, they were more dangerous than expected, but greed twisted their resolve. "We will take her alive," the leader snarled. "Kill the man!" They rushed forward again. Ethan swung, blocked, and fought with every drop of strength. His body screamed in pain, but his spirit refused to break. He remembered the mother's last words. He remembered the fear in Lyra's eyes. He remembered the fire inside him that whispered he could not fail. Outside, the colony lights flickered as alarms rang across the valley. People were waking, confused, unaware that raiders had landed among them. But Ethan had no time to think of anyone else. All that mattered now was the child, the amulet, and survival. A raider lunged for Lyra. His claws reaching, Ethan turned, slamming his wrench into the attacker's faceplate. The helmet cracked. The raider howled, falling back. But another grabbed Ethan from behind. Crushing his ribs in a steel grip, he gasped in pain, struggling. But his arms were pinned. Lyra screamed again, her tiny hands glowing as the amulet pulsed. A beam of light shot out, striking the raider who held Ethan. The armored figure screamed, dropping him to the ground. Ethan coughed, his chest burning. But he forced himself back up. The amulet saved him, but he could see the toll on Lyra. Her body trembled, her small face pale with exhaustion. The raider leader stepped forward at last. He was taller than the others, his armor darker, his eyes burning red. He raised a massive blade, its edge glowing with plasma. "You are brave, human," he said coldly. "But bravery will not save you." Ethan tightened his grip, sweat dripping from his brow. He was shaking, he was bleeding, but he would not step aside. The leader swung, the blade cutting through metal beams as if they were paper. Ethan dodged barely. The heat searing past his face, he swung his wrench, striking the leader's leg, sparks flying. The raider growled in anger, slamming his blade down again. The ground cracked under the force, dust filling the air. Ethan stumbled, his body weak, his breaths ragged. He could not fight much longer, he knew it. But then he looked back and saw Lyra, her small hands clutching the amulet. Her glowing eyes locked on him. She believed in him, and that belief gave him strength. The raider leader raised his weapon for the final strike. But before it could fall, a blast of light filled the wreckage. It was not Lyra this time, but the amulet itself. The crystal pulsed violently, sending shockwaves through the air. The raiders staggered back. Shielding their eyes, the leader cursed, retreating with a snarl. "This is not the end, human," he spat. "We will return for the child." The raiders fled into the night, their engines roaring as they lifted into the sky. The wreckage grew silent again, broken only by Ethan's heavy breaths. He dropped to one knee, his body aching, his chest burning with pain. Lyra crawled to his side, her eyes wet with tears. You saved me," she whispered. Her voice trembling, Ethan looked at her, exhausted, beaten but alive. He forced a weak smile, his voice rough but steady. "I promised your mother," he said, "and I won't let them take you." The amulet glowed faintly, as if agreeing with his words. Outside, the colony alarms continued. But inside the wreckage, a bond had been forged. Human and alien child united by fate, standing at the beginning of a greater storm. The wreckage lay silent after the battle. The raiders were gone, but their promise to return lingered like smoke in the air. Ethan leaned against the wall, his chest heaving, his arms trembling from the fight. Lyra clung to him, her small body shaking, the amulet glowing weakly against her chest. He could feel her heartbeat through it, quick and fragile like a bird trapped in a storm. The silence was broken by a soft sound, a whisper too faint to believe. Ethan turned and froze. The alien mother still breathed. Her chest rose and fell in shallow motions, her eyes half open, filled with pain but also fierce will. She had not yet left this world. Ethan rushed to her side, dropping to his knees. "Don't move," he said quickly. "You're hurt badly." She coughed, her body trembling, but she raised a weak hand. Her fingers brushed Lyra's cheek, her eyes softening with love. "My daughter," she whispered. Voice cracked. "My light, my last hope," Lyra cried, pressing her tiny hand against her mother's. "Mother, don't go," the child whispered, her voice breaking. The amulet pulsed between them, as if echoing their pain. The mother closed her eyes for a moment, gathering what little strength remained. When she spoke again, her voice carried weight, like stone etched into history. "Human," she said weakly, turning her gaze to Ethan. "You fought for her, though she is not your kind." Ethan swallowed hard, his throat tight. "I couldn't let them take her," he said, his voice rough but honest. "She is innocent. She deserves to live." The mother's lips curved in the smallest smile. Her hand trembled as she pointed at the amulet glowing against Lyra's chest. "This is not only memory," she said, each word a struggle. "It is the life of my people, their voices, their power." Her eyes locked with his, sharp despite her weakness. "If they steal it, my race will vanish forever." Ethan felt the weight of her words crush against him. He was just one man, one human engineer on a forgotten colony. Yet here she was, giving him a responsibility greater than any battle. He wanted to protest, to say he wasn't strong enough, but the way her eyes burned with desperation silenced him. "You must protect her," the mother continued, her voice breaking. "She is bound to the amulet. It lives with her heart." Tears rolled down Lyra's cheeks as she shook her head. "I need you, Mother. Don't leave me," she cried. Ethan's chest tightened, the sound nearly breaking him. The mother brushed the child's hair gently, her touch slow, weak, fading. "I will always be with you," she whispered, "through the amulet, through the blood, through the stars." Her gaze flickered toward Ethan again. "She will need you, more than ever." Ethan wanted to argue, wanted to promise her survival, but the truth was written across her failing body. No medicine he had, no machine he could build, would save her now. Her time was slipping away like sand in the wind. He clenched his fists, anger and sorrow burning inside him. The mother reached for his hand, her cold fingers curling around his. "You are human, yet you stood against hunters for her," she whispered. "Your kind, your fire, it is strong, stronger than you know." She coughed, blood on her lips, but her eyes still burned bright. "Promise me, Ethan. Promise me you will keep her safe." Ethan's throat tightened, but he nodded slowly. "I promise," he said, his voice breaking. "I'll protect her, with everything I have." The mother's face softened, relief passing over her features. "Then I can rest," she whispered. Her hand slipped from his, her eyes closed. Her chest stilled, Lyra wailed, the sound raw and sharp, clutching her mother's body. The amulet blazed with sudden light, filling the room with golden fire. The glow wrapped around the child like a shield. It was as if the mother's final breath had awakened something deep inside the crystal. The air itself hummed with power. Ancient and vast, Ethan shielded his eyes, his heart heavy as he watched the scene. He wanted to comfort Lyra, to take her pain away, but he could only kneel beside her. The light dimmed slowly, the glow fading until only the faint heartbeat of the crystal remained. Lyra's sobs grew softer, her small body trembling. At last she looked at Ethan, her eyes wet and red. "She's gone," the child whispered, her voice hollow. Ethan pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her. "I know," he said softly, "but you're not alone. Not anymore." The amulet pulsed gently as if agreeing with his words. The child buried her face against his chest, clutching him like he was her only anchor left. Outside, the colony alarm still wailed. The raiders would come again, stronger, hungrier. Ethan knew this was only the beginning, but as he held Lyra, feeling the warmth of the amulet between them, he made his vow silently once more. He would not fail her, he would not let her be taken. The universe itself could rise against them, but he would stand, because that was what it meant to be human. And in this dark night, humanity had become her last shield. The colony did not sleep that night. The alarms echoed across the settlement. Warning of raider ships circling above, Ethan stood in the hangar, his chest still bruised from the last fight, his hands busy repairing his old cargo ship. Lyra sat quietly in the corner, clutching the amulet, her small face pale but determined. The child had lost her mother, but she had not lost her fire. Ethan tightened a bolt, sparks flying as he reconnected the ship's damaged engine. He had no choice. The colony could not protect Lyra if he stayed. The raiders would return and burn everything until they had her. The only way was to run, to flee across the stars. Lyra's glowing eyes followed him as he worked. "Will they find us?" she asked softly, her voice trembling. Ethan paused, his jaw tightening. "They'll try," he admitted, "but I won't let them take you." The amulet pulsed faintly in her hands like it was listening, like it agreed. The ship roared to life, the engines shaking the hangar. Ethan climbed into the pilot's seat, motioning for Lyra to follow. She strapped herself into the chair beside him, her small fingers gripping the armrest. The ship's panels flickered, old and worn, but still alive. "This old bird isn't fast," Ethan muttered, "but she'll keep us in the air." The hangar doors opened, revealing the star-filled sky above. The raider ships prowled. Scanning for them, Ethan took a deep breath, his hands steady on the controls. "Hold on, Lyra," he whispered. Then he pushed the throttle, and the ship shot into the night. The stars blurred as they climbed higher. Engines groaned, metal shuddered, but the ship kept going. Ethan's heart raced as the radar lit up, red dots moving toward them. The raiders had spotted their escape. "They're coming," he muttered. Laser fire streaked across the darkness. Bolts of energy exploded near the ship, shaking it violently. Lyra screamed, clutching the amulet tight. Ethan gritted his teeth. Weaving the ship through the barrage, old instincts took over, his hands moving with desperate precision. The raiders closed in, faster, sharper, their ships built for the hunt. Ethan's cargo vessel was no match in speed or firepower, but he knew tricks. He dove through a field of shattered asteroids, spinning the ship between floating rocks. Explosions lit the void as raider fire smashed into stone instead of steel. Lyra's wide eyes glowed in the flickering light. The amulet pulsed stronger, as if reacting to the chase. Suddenly, a burst of energy rippled outward. The ship's controls flickered, warning lights flashing across the console. "What did you do?" Ethan shouted, glancing at Lyra. "I don't know," she cried. Holding the amulet, the crystal glowed brighter, and Ethan realized it wasn't hurting the ship, it was guiding them on the display. A new signal appeared, a star map projected in golden light. It pointed toward a hidden location, far beyond the raiders' reach. Ethan narrowed his eyes. "All right then," he muttered. "Let's trust your magic stone." He adjusted the course. Following the strange light, the ship lurched as engines strained, but it obeyed. The raiders howled behind them, their voices echoing through comm channels. "You can't run forever, human," the leader's voice hissed. "The girl is ours," Ethan cut the comm, his jaw set. "Not while I breathe," he muttered. Lyra clutched the amulet tighter, tears in her eyes but fire in her voice. "They won't have me," she whispered. The amulet pulsed brighter, as if answering her courage. The chase stretched across broken moons and dark nebulae. The raiders fired again and again, each shot missing by inches. Ethan's arms ached, his mind focused. Weaving the ship through danger, at last they entered a field of drifting wreckage. Ancient ships, broken and lifeless, floating in silence. "This isn't on any chart," Ethan whispered. His eyes wide, the amulet's glow pulsed stronger, pointing deeper into the graveyard of ships. Lyra's voice was soft but sure. "It's leading us," she said. Ethan tightened his grip on the controls, trusting her. The raiders hesitated at the edge of the wreckage. Even they seemed wary of this place. But greed pushed them forward, their ship slithering into the field. One wrong move would smash them into metal debris, but Ethan moved with steady hands, following the light. Suddenly, a massive shadow loomed, an ancient station, half buried in broken vessels. Hidden for ages, its surface glowed faintly. The same light as the amulet, Lyra gasped, her eyes wide with wonder. "This is it," she whispered. The raiders roared behind them, closing in. Ethan's ship groaned as it squeezed through a narrow gap. Sparks flying across its hull, they burst into open space, the ancient station towering before them. Its doors opened as if expecting them. Guided by the amulet's power, Ethan dove inside, engines screaming. The door sealing shut behind them. Silence filled the cockpit, broken only by Ethan's ragged breath. Lyra stared at the glowing station outside the window. Her small hands clutched the amulet, her voice trembling. "My people built this," she whispered, "long ago." Ethan leaned back in his chair. Exhausted but alive, the raiders were locked outside. But they would not give up. They would wait. They would hunt. Ethan knew this chase was only beginning. But inside this ancient place, answers waited. Answers about the amulet, the child, and the storm that was coming. For the first time since the night began, Ethan allowed himself a single deep breath. He looked at Lyra, her eyes glowing with both fear and hope. "You led us here," he said quietly. The child nodded, her voice soft but certain. "The amulet led us both, and somewhere in the depths of the station, lights flickered awake. Ancient machines stirred, waiting for the one who carried the crystal. The chase was over for now, but the real journey had only begun." The ancient station was silent when Ethan's ship landed inside. Dust floated like mist, untouched for centuries. The hangar lights flickered awake, glowing with the same golden hue as Lyra's amulet. It was as if the place itself had been waiting for her. Ethan stared through the cockpit window, his chest tight with awe and suspicion. He stepped down first, wrench in hand, his boots echoing across the metal floor. Lyra followed close behind, the amulet glowing brighter with every step she took. The light from the crystal stretched across the walls, tracing old symbols that pulsed alive. The entire station seemed to breathe. "This place knows you," Ethan whispered, his voice filled with disbelief. Lyra touched one of the glowing walls. The moment her small hand brushed the surface, the metal shifted, panels opened, gears turned, and a deep hum filled the air. The station was waking, her eyes widened, and she whispered in wonder, "It remembers." Ethan frowned, gripping his tool tighter. "Remembers what?" he asked, his voice sharp with caution. Lyra turned to him, her glowing eyes filled with strange certainty. "My people built this," she said, her voice soft but strong. "It was waiting for me, waiting for the amulet." A doorway opened ahead, carved with alien symbols now shining like fire. Ethan hesitated, but Lyra walked forward without fear. He followed, his heart heavy with questions. The corridor led into a great chamber wide and tall. In its center stood a towering pillar of crystal and steel. The amulet pulsed in rhythm with the pillar. Lights ran across the walls like rivers of energy. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. "This isn't just a station," he muttered. "It's a vault. Maybe more." Lyra stepped closer, holding the amulet high. The pillar responded with a low chime. Holograms flared to life around them, ghostly figures of her people. They spoke in a language Ethan did not understand, but Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "They are my ancestors," she whispered. Ethan's chest tightened as he watched her small body surrounded by their light. The holograms bowed their heads toward her. One of them spoke, its voice ancient and deep. "You carry the last bond," Lyra translated softly. "You are the heir." The amulet blazed, filling the chamber with light. Ethan took a step back, the truth crashing down on him. The amulet was not just memory, not just power, it was a key to something hidden, something vast. The child was not only in danger, she was destiny itself. The hologram shifted, showing visions of great ships, an endless fleet sleeping in the void, waiting for a signal. Lyra's hands trembled as she stared at the image. "They are still here," she whispered, "my people. They are waiting to awaken." Her voice shook, both frightened and hopeful. Ethan clenched his fists, realizing the truth. If the raiders took the amulet, they would control this fleet. They would command power strong enough to burn worlds. No wonder they hunted her. No wonder her mother gave her life to keep this secret safe. The chamber shook suddenly, alarms ringing through the station. Ethan's blood ran cold. The raiders had not left. On the display above, dark ships appeared, forcing their way toward the station's entrance. "They found us," he muttered. Lyra clutched the amulet tight, her eyes wide with fear. "We cannot let them take it," she whispered, her voice trembling. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice firm. "Then we fight," he said. The child nodded, her small face filled with resolve. The station's walls shifted, ancient weapons unfolding from the shadows. Ethan stared in shock as machines long asleep came to life. The amulet pulsed, guiding the systems. Responding to Lyra's presence, she had control, even if she did not yet understand it. The ancestors had tied everything to her blood. But the raiders were relentless. Explosions shook the hangar doors, metal groaning under their fire. The leader's voice echoed through comms. "Cruel and sharp. Hand over the child, human, or watch this place become her tomb." Ethan grit his teeth, fire rising in his chest. "Over my dead body," he growled. Lyra's eyes glowed brighter, the amulet blazing as if fueled by his defiance. The chamber's lights surged and new doors opened. A command bridge stretched before them, filled with alien consoles and glowing maps. Lyra's small hand hovered over one of the controls. Uncertain but drawn to it, Ethan guided her forward. "You know what to do," he said softly. Lyra nodded, her fear mixing with courage. The amulet flared once more, locking into the pillar. Suddenly, the fleet from the hologram stirred across the star map. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Ships larger than cities, hidden across the void, flickered awake in golden fire. The raiders outside had no idea what was beginning. Lyra looked up at Ethan, her voice trembling but full of strength. "They are coming," she whispered. The door shuddered, about to break under raider fire. Ethan raised his wrench again, standing between the child and the enemy. He was only one man, but his stance was unshakable. Lyra stood behind him, the amulet glowing like a star. The air itself seemed to hum with the power of awakening. The revelation was clear. This child carried the future of an entire race, and one human would stand against the universe to protect her. The doors cracked, the raiders roared, the chamber blazed with light, and the storm that would change the galaxy began with them. The doors of the ancient chamber shook under the force of the raiders. Metal screamed as plasma fire tore through the walls. Ethan stood at the front, wrench in hand, his body aching but his spirit unbroken. Behind him, Lyra clutched the amulet, the glow so bright it painted her face with golden fire. The child was trembling, but her eyes were steady. The doors cracked open with a deafening roar. The raiders stormed inside, armed, their leader at the front. His red eyes burned with greed as he pointed his massive blade toward the child. "Step aside, human," he growled, his voice like thunder. "She belongs to us. The amulet belongs to us." Ethan spat blood and tightened his grip on the wrench. "She belongs to no one," he said coldly. "You want her? You'll have to kill me first." The raider leader laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. "You are one man, weak and broken. You cannot stop us." Ethan's chest burned with pain, his body ready to collapse, but his spirit rose higher than ever. He remembered the mother's plea, he remembered Lyra's tears, and he remembered what it meant to be human. The raiders charged forward, their weapons flashing. Ethan roared, swinging his wrench with desperate fury. Metal clashed, sparks exploded, blood spilled. He was struck, his ribs screaming, but he did not fall. He fought like fire itself, refusing to yield. Lyra cried out, the amulet pulsing in her hands. Golden energy rippled through the chamber, pushing raiders back, but each blast weakened her. Draining her strength, she stumbled, her knees trembling. "Ethan," she whispered, "I can't hold it much longer." Ethan blocked another strike. Pain shooting through his arm, he glanced back, his eyes burning with determination. "You're not alone," he said. "We'll do this together," the amulet flared. Responding to his words, the crystal linked with him, threads of light binding them both. Suddenly Ethan felt it, the weight of countless voices, the echo of Lyra's ancestors. Power surged through his veins, not his own but shared for a moment. Human and alien child were one. The amulet had chosen them both. The raider leader growled, sensing the change. He raised his blade high, charging with fury. Ethan met him head on, his wrench glowing with the same golden fire as the amulet. When their weapons clashed, the chamber shook like thunder. The fight became more than steel and blood, it was will against will. The raider leader struck again and again, each blow heavy enough to crush bone, but Ethan matched him, his body screaming but his spirit unyielding. With every strike, the amulet pulsed brighter. With every cry, Lyra's small voice whispered courage into his heart. "You are not strong enough," the raider snarled. You are only human, Ethan gritted his teeth, his voice roaring like fire. Exactly, he shouted, and that's why I'll never stop. With one final swing, he drove his wrench into the leader's chest. The golden energy of the amulet exploded outward. The raider leader screamed, his armor cracking, his blade shattering. The shock wave threw the other raiders across the chamber, their bodies smoking. The leader fell to his knees, his red eyes wide with disbelief. Impossible, he gasped. Before the light consumed him, silence followed, broken only by Ethan's ragged breath. He staggered, barely standing but alive. The remaining raiders fled. Fear breaking their courage, they had come to steal. But they had met something greater than power. They had met the will of a human. Lyra ran to Ethan, her eyes wet with tears. You did it, she whispered. Clutching his arm, Ethan shook his head weakly. No, he said softly, we did it. The amulet pulsed gently. Like a heartbeat of hope, the holograms of her ancestors returned. Glowing softly, they bowed toward Lyra and then toward Ethan. Their voices filled the chamber like a song. You are not of our blood, Lyra translated, her voice trembling, but you are of our spirit. You are family, Ethan's throat tightened, his eyes burning for the first time in his life. He felt something larger than himself. He had protected more than a child. He had protected the future of an entire people. And in return, they had accepted him. Lyra hugged him tightly, her small voice muffled against his chest. You're my family now, she whispered. Ethan closed his eyes, holding her close. I promised your mother, he said softly. And I'll never break that promise. The amulet glowed brighter, lighting the chamber with warmth. Outside, the ancient fleet stirred. Signals spread across the stars, waking ships long forgotten. The galaxy itself trembled at the rise of something new, but inside the station there was no fear. There was only the bond between a human and a child. Ethan looked at the endless star map glowing before them. The battles ahead would be greater. The dangers far worse, but he was no longer afraid. He was human, and that was enough.